Hey, that's a pretty catchy headline, isn't it? That's why I made it that way. I just want you to know that it was 2 years ago today that my entire world changed overnight. Unexpectedly, didn't see it happen. And here it is 2 years later. And looking back, believe it or not, I wouldn't change a moment of it. And it started because somebody accused me of a child sex crime. Now, I haven't been very public with my story, but that's all about to change. And I'm so happy to share with you. Here it is 2 years later, and I am much better because of everything I went through. But most of you don't know what that is. And so I'm going to share with you. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I was in an abusive relationship. And at the time, I kept kind of fibbing to myself, thinking as it escalated and got worse, that I can handle this, and I can handle this, and I can handle this, and I can handle this. And in the end, what I found out was I couldn't. And when I had had enough and finally left my abuser, he created this sensational headline and quickly is very versed in how to manipulate the media. All local media got on board. It was picked up locally by the news channels, and then it was the front page of the local newspaper, and then eventually it even went viral. Now, if you guys want to check out that story from 2 years ago, all you have to do is Google Charlotte Clisaris. So first name, full name is Charlotte Clisaris, and you'll see the stories that he made up. But here it is today, 2 years later. It was to this day, 2 years ago. I mean, as I went through today and I reflected back hour by hour, remembering what I was doing on that day, it was very traumatic. I am, believe it or not, thankful for all of it, but want to share a few things with you that while I've gained clarity on everything that's happening, and during that time, I have started a foundation and I've reached out to find women who find themselves stuck in a similar situation. Now, that isn't to say that men don't either, but I am not a man. I'm a woman, so I will be able to help a woman a lot better than I'd be able to help a man. So if you're a man and you read this story or hear this story and you feel moved by it, please come on board and help me with it. But what I would like to do is tell you that while in the 2 years I am changed and much better, the situation that was created and manipulated by my abuser has not. And the entire process was unneeded. It didn't have to happen, and yet it's still in place, and there is nothing that has changed that would stop this injustice from happening when somebody is going to leave a violent relationship. And so while nothing has changed to stop the needless collective, I've actually labeled it a type of abuse that I don't see out there very often, but I call it systemic abuse because it's using all of the normal resources that would be available and systemically finding ways to manipulate and use them against the victim as they try to flee. And while you don't believe this is possible in 2018, it is. And I am actually like this rarity that lived through it all. Now, what's going to really blow your mind is from the beginning, I told the truth, and we would all think that the truth sets you free because we teach our children to respect authority and tell the truth, but it is not what got me free. It was money. And that's the sad point. If I didn't have money, the system that we go to find justice would have not dismissed charges. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let me go back because it was 2 years ago today that started. But let me tell you that actually my experience had started 90 days before that. And it was absolutely very traumatic in my life. And I'm just going to give you a brief version of it. But it was one of the most horrible times that I've ever endured. I briefly dated a man. In hindsight, I can see now how he had picked me out and kind of groomed me. And I had questioned myself and didn't trust my gut from the beginning. When I first met him, there was a gut feeling, and I kept doubting myself. And now I know you can't do that. You trust that gut because it's a gift. After 30 days, I went to break up with him, and this infuriated him, and that's an understatement. And in the moment that I tried to break up with him, he had sent some photos he had taken of me sleeping at his house nude to my children. And my children hadn't, imagine getting naked pictures of your mom sent to you. And in the moment that they got those, my panic reaction, because the things he was saying to my children were horrible. And you would not even believe the depth of vulgarness that this person went to. And once he sent that picture to my children, I remember thinking I had no idea he had taken it. And it's obvious that I'm sleeping when he took it. And I was worried in the moment that he had videos or had more than I knew. And so I had reached out in that moment to two of his family members to say, can you help me? I sent them screenshots of what he had just sent to my children. And they did step up, and they did actually stop him and help and made some apologies. But over the next 60 days, what I had a talk to him. I had just was living in fear, and I had thought that he had more maybe than what he had, because I thought he had some videos that he had taken not known to me. And he had made some threats that he was going to send them to my children and to coworkers. And so I just thought that I would just break up with him slower. I would just get really busy, and then I could handle this. And then I didn't want to bother the police because I can handle this. And over the next 60 days, he broke into my house, and he didn't actually break in the door. What he had seen was my keypad number on my front door. I didn't realize that he had watched me once open my door, so he knew what my keypad number was. And I had come in from an open house, and it was obvious that he had been in my home. And even then I thought I can handle this, and I can, I had called him out on it and had given some pretty harsh words that if he had did it again, that I was going to call the police. But I just kept thinking I can handle this. And, I was minimizing contact with him, and I would just blame it on my business because I was really busy at the time. And I'm a real estate agent. It was middle of summer, so I was really busy. And I kept thinking that, he would go away or he would find somebody else. But what I found was that he kept trying to integrate more aggressively into my life. And I don't know if you know it, but when you reply that you're going to attend something on Facebook and stuff, people could see that. And I didn't know that. And he was showing up at some networking events unannounced. He showed up at my office to meet employees. And I was a little offset, but once I closed the door and firmly told him to get out, he would leave. And I just kept thinking I can handle it. I can handle it. It even got so bad that he sliced the tires on my car. And the next day I woke up to his mom at my front door knocking, apologizing, crying, telling me how happy he was. And just, I kept thinking I can handle it. And it all came to head one night when I had gone out to dinner with him rather late, and he had had too much to drink, couldn't drive home. He agreed to sleep on my sofa, got to my house. He wouldn't follow any rules or requests. And long of the short of it, there was a domestic violence incident at my house, and he found out I had called the police, and he ran away on foot. And they actually found him. And at the time they asked me what I wanted done. And I had just said, I wanted him to leave me alone. And at the time they said, you know what, we're going to arrest him for domestic violence, or not domestic violence, sorry, we're going to arrest him for public intox. And we'll give him a no trespassing. I live in a city that's just a suburb of Des Moines, and they thought that that would be enough, and kind of gave some stern words. And it was just the beginning. So they processed him in overnight. He had called me like 40 some times and left messages, just threatening messages. And I had those because I wasn't answering my phone. And so when he saw that that wasn't working, he went on to social media and had created a fake profile that under the name of his dog, and started going to networking events where I had photos at and being tagged in. And he started doing slanderous comments online then. And at the time this was all going on, I was calling a very good friend who's an attorney to say, what do I do? How do I handle this? What do I do next? And, she said, don't I had sent him an earlier message that said, don't reach out to me. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want any contact with you. So when he started doing this, rather than reach back to him, which is what he wanted, I was reaching out to the page administrators and they were deleting these comments, which I believe fueled his fire even more. And then he started sending me selfies of him down at the police department. At the time, I didn't realize what he was doing. It really had never connected to me because I have never been in trouble. I've never been arrested. I'd never had any problems like this. So I just remember thinking, if he goes down there and does something, that whoever he talks to there will talk to the police that are here in my local town, because there was a very documented history. And so that day, after all those threats and conversations, I revisited the police department where I live and had told them everything he had done, even the threats, and they had reached out to him again and made a very clear statement to leave me alone. And over the next couple of days, he did it. The continued stalking and harassing, but it was more covert. And that Monday, I'd received a call from my real estate broker saying that he had just received a phone call from an anonymous local attorney claiming that I was going to be all over the news for a child sex crime, and that they needed to, I don't know, distance myself or break up. I have no idea. And so with that phone call, I went back to my police department. My police department told me to go down to the local Polk County courthouse and file for no contact order, which is what I did. And that process took 2 days. And remember, the whole time I can handle this, I can do this. And I didn't want any of my coworkers or employees or other agents in real estate to know really the extent. I mean, my broker knew at the time what was going on, because I really thought that he was going to show up, he being my abuser was going to show up at an open house and kill me or something. I mean, the 60 days between when I broke up and when he finally got arrested was just a nightmare. And I remember waking up thinking that this got to be a movie. I mean, I can't believe that somebody goes this far and knows how to manipulate systems, and just, it was surprising to me. So I was issued the no contact order. And when you have a no contact order issued, you go into the courtroom about 2 weeks later, and the person you have the no contact order is also there. So that, I guess there are people who file false ones or drop them, and that's that time frame that they could sort it out. So in that 2 weeks, he had no contact with me. It was quiet. Life was starting to get back to normal. Went into the courtroom. I had my daughter who was a witness, so she had to sit outside. And in that courtroom visit, I remember there being weird things that he had said, but didn't still connect the dots to what he had done yet. And all of a sudden, he became a lender, because when the judge asked him what he did, he said that he was a lender in mortgage, and that if I was issued this no contact order, you know, that now that he's a lender and I'm a real estate agent, there's things that we would both be at, and this would impact his business and his income. And the judge had said, you know what, this is to protect her. So if you both show up at the same place, you have to leave. And it still didn't click what was going on yet, how he had planted some things and was manipulating the system. I still didn't know. I'm naive. I was living in Disneyland thinking that truth prevails and bad people go away. But on September 13th was the day, 2016, that we went into court. I got the permanent no contact order issued. And my daughter was sitting outside the courtroom, and she heard him say when he left, go ahead and proceed with the charges. And when I came out, she said that to me. It still didn't make sense. I had no clue. I thought he was talking about I had no idea that what he was doing was manipulating all of the things that were designed to protect me into helping him on his mission to try to destroy me. In the 2 weeks from when the final contact order was issued to September 27th, he had no contact with me. I didn't hear from him at all. And I was continuing on with my business. And it was actually a Monday when I got a call from a detective that there was I'm sorry, let me go back. About 3 days after the no contact order was issued, I got a phone call from a Des Moines detective, and I shared with him exactly what I've shared with you. And in the future, I actually have the phone call. I'll share that. It's a lengthy one. It's 45 minutes long. And in that phone call, I tell him I'm an abused woman, all the psycho things in a lot more detail of what this guy has done to me, how I'm just trying to flee this relationship, how I guess he had gone down the day he was arrested at my house, and he filed a report with the local Des Moines Police Department saying that when he broke up with me, I had sent nude photos of me to his son, and his son was a minor. And so that was the fabricated twist of a story. And he showed them the screenshots of the messages from the incident 2 months prior when he had sent the photos to my children. And I had reached out for help. And it was in those moments that that detective called me, and I shared with him what I've shared with you. And 2 weeks later, believe it or not, they issued a warrant for my arrest. And that brings me to where we're at today. I don't know how from the very beginning of my experience I knew to do this, but I created a video. I do know how I knew to do this. This is because I have a very close relationship with God. And I was in the parking lot praying, asking for clarity and to make sense of the senseless situation of I was trying to leave an abusive relationship. I have a no contact order. This guy was arrested at my house. In my no contact order, I had put, because he had threatened, he said, if you ever leave me, I'm going to destroy you. And I will have it all over the news and the media. And at the time I remember thinking, how? Because I don't do anything illegal. And I even pay my quarterly taxes as a real estate agent. That's borderline angelic. I don't know if you know that, but it is. And so I hadn't known this kind of evil or manipulation to know how we would be able to do it. But in my no contact order issued 30 days before they issued a warrant, I told them that he's going to have me all over the press and media. So when there was a warrant issued, or when there is a warrant issued for your arrest, if you did it or not, doesn't really matter. You have to go turn yourself in. I learned that. And there's a lot of stories in those moments, but I was in the parking lot and just praying for clarity and just guidance, because this made no sense. And it felt so wrong. And God said, start recording. And so I made a video diary of the entire experience, day by day. And I remember thinking as I was going through it, I can go through this as long as it will bring awareness and change. And I kept that diary close to me. It took 200 days to get through the process. And I'm not going to tell you a whole lot, but there's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of moments where I'm broken and I've lost all faith. So if you're broken and lost all faith, watch these and use some of it to help you through these moments. But my entire goal of sharing this is October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so every Monday and every Thursday, I'm going to share a month's worth of videos. So this coming Monday, I'm going to release the September 2016 videos of behind the scenes, my personal diary of what I was going through. Because it wasn't just that moment. There was this overwhelming collectiveness that jumped on board with my abuser, not knowingly. It just wasn't knowingly at the time, but it was amazing how many people jumped on board, including the local media, the local police, people themselves, not knowing the truth and how easily they're led by the media to persecute a completely innocent person. And so stay tuned. I will post in the comments of this video the link that you could subscribe to on YouTube, where you'll get those delivered to you automatically. And what you can do today, I'm going to be sharing every step of the way. There'll be a little intro video of kind of what you're getting ready to see. Remember, first and foremost, it's 2 years later today. I'm doing fine. It was a very traumatic experience, but it usually takes those kinds of experiences for big change to happen. It has to be a big story. And this story is worthy of your following and your sharing. And so right now, today, the most important thing that you can do is go to my CKRET Foundation Facebook page. And CKRET is spelled C-K-R-E-T, CKRET Foundation. We recently applied for our nonprofit status, so we should be getting that anytime. And we'll be releasing videos to there. And share this video with your takeaways or your notes, because I can tell you that 2 years ago and 2 days, I didn't see this coming. There are women in your life who don't see a Jane Go experience coming. And it's not too late to create the change that needs to be created. I'm not here to point fingers or cause fault. I'm here to become the change the world needs. I take these women into my own home, use my own funds to help them when I can find them. But ultimately, the goal is to create the change that's needed in our systems so that it doesn't happen again. And so what you can do today is subscribe. I'll leave the video link for the 200 days, the Django epidemic is what I'm calling this, and like the CKRET Foundation page and share it. And share your feedback, because I'll tell you what, if there is one person whose life can be changed better or even made so they don't have to go through the experience that I went through, then it will all be worthwhile. And I held this story in and kind of just let the ripple effects of what he created happen. But what I know today is he still continues to covertly abuse me and do things. I mean, every year I go back for a continuation of the no contact order, and every year there's violations and he'll go to jail. And so continue to watch the current story, but let's get you caught up to date. And that's what we'll use October for. So you guys, I hope you're having a great evening. And I hope you will join me on my march of bringing awareness to something that so many people try to keep a secret. And the other thing on a side note is CKRET, CKRET, CKRET Foundation stands for the Shar Caceres Real Estate Team. He tried to destroy me. We're going to show him it's not possible, and I'll be thankful in the end for everything that he tried to do. So I hope you guys are having a great evening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.